Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic South African Zionist Federation Zoom event. Tonight, we are talking about the innovation revolution, lockdown leaders paving the way to the new normal. I've let you in a couple of minutes early. We're just going to wait a few more minutes for people to arrive, and we'll start a couple of minutes after 7:30. If you have any questions or comments, please use the chat, and we will get to them in the Q&A session. Thanks for joining us. Hi, everybody. Once again, thanks for joining us. We're going to wait a few more minutes for people to come on board, and we're going to start our discussion, Innovation Revolution, Lockdown Leaders Paving the Way to the New Normal. We will be starting in a couple of minutes. Thanks. Okay, everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We are going to start now. Tonight's topic is Innovation Revolution, Lockdown Leaders Paving the Way to the New Normal. And without any further ado, it is my great pleasure to welcome the Vice Chairperson of the South African Zionist Federation, Kayla Erdang.
Good evening and welcome to our Innovation Revolution webinar. This time has been a trying time for all of us, and most of us have had to redefine our businesses and what we do. Some businesses have been able to shift and survive, and others, unfortunately, have not been so lucky. Tonight, we will hear from 3 incredible businesses and shifting into survival mode. We are going to have a Q&A session at the end, so please, if you have any questions, please write them in the chat. 3 businesses, 3 entrepreneurs, and 3 amazing stories. The South African Zionist Federation is over 120 years old and aims at connecting South Africa to Israel and vice versa through politics, culture, technology, and current affairs. The South African Zionist Federation has many affiliate organizations, such as the South African Friends of Israel, WITSO, SORGES, JNF, Israel Center, Habonim, B'nai Akiva, Netzer, Beitar, and Magen David Adom. The Zionist Federation plays an important role in the community through the events they organize, such as Yom HaAtzmaut celebrations and various educational programs through the schools, universities, and adult programs. The Zionist Fed plays a big role in the political issues concerning Israel and South Africa. Most recently, during the pandemic, we have launched two important projects. The first project being importing special medical masks from Israel, which we have donated to Hatzolah. The second project, we have launched an online platform called Ashok, which allows small businesses to advertise their products and services, and people can go and buy vouchers which can be redeemed after the pandemic or lockdown or any of those. Here is a message from the South African Friends of Israel, which is one of the flagship projects of the South African Zionist Federation.
My name is Clive Mtlake Mashishi. I'm born in Sebokeng. Part of my work that I do in South African Friends of Israel, we work with different churches in helping the communities. SAFI played an important role because most of our communities are not working. Some they depend on recycling alcohol bottles, so they lost their work during the pandemic. We find that it's a family of 6 people and no one is working. And the kids, some they don't attend school, some they don't have proper uniform or sanitary pads. When we see every time when we are at the feeding scheme, some kids they come and take their food and close it out, and they are going to wait to be supper for them. There's a big gap here. The people are starving out there, so that is very painful and it affects us also. We saw that our community need help, so SAFI helped us a lot in finding donations and buying food parcels for the communities, and now we are going to start food gardens for the communities. And also we are going to adopt the style that I saw in Israel, the kibbutz. Working together with South African Friends of Israel, we can make a big difference. I'm a Christian, I'm a Zionist. I love the state of Israel. We don't differ from Judaism. Both Christian people and Jewish people love helping their neighbors. I learned a lot from the Jewish communities. They really supported us, our programs from the start without hesitation. It is amazing the love that we see between the two groups. We hope and we pray that we can continue like that, because I see magic when they work together. I know that I don't have a lot, but helping someone else is really touching. It gives me that wealth more than money. I sleep peacefully. Very important to see South African Friends of Israel grow in this country.
Please donate. No amount is too small. Every little bit counts towards making a big difference. Kevin's 25-year career has spanned executive leadership, national broadcasting, brand management, community development, and entrepreneurship, accumulating many accolades and awards. This included 8 years leading the biggest regional radio channel in South Africa, Jacaranda FM. Prior to his time at the station, Kevin was the CEO at 101.9 High FM. Most recently, Van was appointed Managing Director of a new business called Expedite. He is a regular speaker on the local and international circuit, where he shares his collaborative views, experiences, and interests on topics such as thought, leadership, business growth, and future trends. We welcome our moderator for this evening, Kevin Van. Thank you for joining us.
Kayla, thank you. It's the ringmaster, not the moderator, if you'll see by the name. And
the ringmaster.
You've got to put in my CV that I'm a big fan of whiskey. So just a l'chaim to everybody. A happy Elul, Shana Tova, and hopefully a good year to everybody before we get going. So
l'chaim.
L'chaim. So thanks Kayla, and thanks to the Zionist Fed for asking me to do this. You know, when I spoke with Benji and Kayla, it just sounded like a fun thing to do. And I do think we're in a time where we need some inspiration. I do think that it's time to hear some good stories, because goodness knows that when you turn on the news, we look at the graphs, we hear the horror stories, and hopefully tonight will leave you inspired. Hopefully tonight will leave you a little bit scared about being an entrepreneur, but most importantly, you will walk away knowing a lot of things that you didn't know, and we've got an amazing group of people together with us. who I'll get to in a second. So welcome. It should be a fun evening. We don't want to make it too formal. We want to make it an evening of celebration. I just want to make it clear to our guests that this is not a 3-hour advert for your business, okay? This is not your opportunity to make as much money as you can. But I think the point behind it is that people are tuning in to really participate in a great story. There are some house rules that I just want to apply. So this goes to our three stars tonight, if I can call them that, Craig, Dogan, Lemo, Ashkenazi, and Ash Nestat, is you're not allowed to use these 3 words. And if you do, you get bombed out. You have to end your answer. So the first is new normal. And I know it's part of the name of tonight's thing, but if I hear one person use new normal, you're getting muted, right? That's number 1. The second is challenging times, because we all know it's challenging times, right? So don't state the obvious. And the third one, and be careful of this one because it's easy to use, is pivot. So the rules are clear. Any usage of those words will not be tolerated, but you can go ahead and introduce yourself as we go ahead and not use those words. So let's get to the stars of the night. So it sent me some very impressive CVs. I've got pages and pages of information about these guys. But maybe I'll share something with you, a thing about them, and then they can introduce themselves. So let's start with Ash Nestat, who started a student society called We Are Animals. Now, that's not something you often see on people's CVs. She's also immersed herself in the world of psychology, and she is the person behind Coffee Monster. Ash, welcome. Just tell us a little bit about Coffee Monster so that we have an idea about what you're talking about tonight.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the intro. So Coffee Monster is a mobile app where customers can order and pay for their coffee or snacks or anything they want really ahead of time. And yeah, we notify the coffee shop when to have the coffee ready for pickup or drop off their car or delivery to a person within walking distance. We also allow customers to discover different Monster spots in and around the area, and they can collect loyalty through the platform. So we have a community loyalty program where customers can order a coffee where they want, and for every 10 cups they get on the platform, their 11th one is free. So that's essentially just what it is. Everyone asks me if it's the Uber for coffee, but obviously it's the reverse model, where like Uber doesn't have any hot beverages on their platform because it doesn't travel well. Whereas Coffee Monster enables like a curbside pickup where you can just order it, schedule it, tell them you want it at 2 o'clock, and then they'll have it ready and just bring it to your car. So we just enable that level of convenience.
So just for all the AKs out there, and the AKs know what the AK means. Because I see there's Madeleine Fain, I see, I don't know everybody here, but welcome Joyce Sachs and Stan Feinstein. I'm assuming some of them are AKs. So basically what you're doing is you're making it easy to collect things from stores by just going onto an app and paying for them, right?
Exactly, yeah. And then we tap into Google as well to estimate how far the customer is. So obviously like our time versus what we think we're going to arrive in is very different. So we'll often tell even like friends, I'm going to be there in 20 minutes, or a store when you're ordering your food, you're going to be like, oh, I'll be there in half an hour, but you're actually not. So we just lean on Google to estimate their time of arrival, and then we count backwards and let them know when to start preparing the drink. So we take away that guesswork from it.
And also make sure that people get hot coffee, so people like me actually arrive and get their coffee.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, cool. So let's go over to the ladies first. We'll leave the thorn amongst the roses to last. Limor Ashkenazi, all the way from Eretz Israel, Manyanim.
מה קורה?
What do you say in the evening? Not Boker Tov. You say...
ערב טוב.
ערב טוב. So, I mean, you've got a very interesting CV, but you worked around Israel Connect. You connect agencies across the world with Israel businesses. It sounds like probably one of the most exciting jobs in the world, to be quite frank. But I'll leave you to explain it to everybody.
The truth is that it is a very interesting job. I love it. I wake up every day with a smile. It took a while to get there, by the way, and to find that passion. But because I quit the corporate world a few years ago to open up Israel Connect. As you know, Israel is known as the startup nation. And Israel Connect is a consulting agency which connects international organizations to the Israeli ecosystem in the fields of innovation, technology, and consumer goods. We provide services such as ongoing organization representation, business development, partnership creation, B2B meetings, scouting, delegations. In a nutshell, the agency acts as a connector, and our role is to be on the ground representing the objectives of international organizations in Israel, whatever those objectives may be. What makes Israel Connect so unique is our strong connections in the local market. And whether it's accelerators or governmental organizations or businesses, and our clients range from corporate organizations such as banks to business networking organizations, chambers of commerce, governmental and economic development organizations, as well as investors.
There's a lot of very jealous people out there. Now that's the marketing speak, and that's the pamphlet that you hand out to everybody. And
the elevator pitch, as we call it.
What sits on your website. But in simple terms, what you're doing is helping connect businesses around the world with businesses in Israel, so that everybody can make money together and help build these Israeli businesses into other territories for the benefit of all. Yes?
Correct.
And that's got to
and
be
again, a big part of it has to do with Israel being the startup nation and all the technologies that come out of here. We've got a very, very high startup capita in the country. There's many reasons for that. I mean, that's a whole different discussion, a whole different panel. But that's what makes it really interesting, because we have countries and organizations from all over the world that are interested in getting exposed to what's happening here in Israel. And so there's a lot of work, and it crosses all types of verticals and industries.
Amazing. It must be, as you say, very exciting to wake up and look at different businesses every day.
Well,
and
exposed to very smart people every day as well. So.
All right, so let's get into the dark horse in the corner there, certainly in my corner, a guy by the name of Craig Dogan. So I asked for his profile, right? So what do I get? I get his LinkedIn profile, which basically says, I'm a very ambitious, goal-oriented person. He knows exactly what I want out of life. He's laughing because he knows it's funny, right? I'm an entrepreneur at heart, clearly, okay? And the part that I liked about this, Craig, and I know I'm having a laugh, but and this is probably the greatest strength that most entrepreneurs speak about, is that you say, above all, my greatest strength is that I am eager to learn. And that's a great quality because it means you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Craig Dogan from Refuel, which kind of explains itself, but you tell us exactly what it is, Craig.
Thanks, Kev. I think first and foremost, I need to update my LinkedIn profile. I think that's from when I was applying at Deloitte, I don't know how many years ago. But basically, Refuel is a mobile app service which combines the latest advancements in technology and safety to connect the petrol station with the consumer. So as a user, you can order fuel for your car or generator for that matter, pay for that fuel, have it delivered and then filled into that car or generator, and all while never leaving your office or your couch, although I guess these days that's one and the same for many people, or even while shopping. So you can do all of that literally just from having a phone in your hands at your fingertips. I think to summarize it, basically we are the equivalent, what Uber Eats does for restaurants, that's what we do for petrol stations.
Now, I've only been around 1 year, one Christmas evening when I was driving home and there was a woman stuck on the side of the road and I actually literally had to push her car to a garage. It would have been very useful to have Refuel. But as you say, it's a pretty simple explanation. So let's stay with you. And I guess the next question to all three of you, and this is really the starting point for any entrepreneur. And when you hear the stories of how Uber started or WhatsApp started, the question is always why. So what is it that actually made you go, holy cow, like this is so obvious to me, I have to do it. So what's the why, Craig? Let's start with you.
So with Refuel, it was my partner actually, he had a few hairy experiences at a petrol station. unfortunately, petrol stations have become crime hotspots, and that statistic only increases. It's just the reality that we find ourselves in. So we then got to thinking, and we just said, this is an industry that literally hasn't gone through any kind of disruption or major innovation in decades. I think everyone on this call, regardless of your age, is still filling up their vehicle the same way they did, when they first started driving or first got their first vehicle. So we said, okay, how can we do this? How can we disrupt this kind of ancient industry? And that's how Refuel was born. We then the fun started. How do we marry software with tech, with hardware, and bringing it all into a mobile delivery service? And that whole process took us about 2 years, together with trying to navigate the legal framework, because it's obviously a highly regulated industry. But that's the why, is how do we disrupt a really old industry that just hasn't changed for a long time.
So was it the same for you, Ash? I mean, you obviously were clearly frustrated with getting coffee and getting it cold and getting it bad. And was it the same motivation for you?
Yeah, similar. It was definitely a personal motivation. Like, I lived in Cape Town for 6 years when I studied, and there's very limited parking outside all the good coffee shops in Cape Town. And there's very bad coffee on campus. So every time I would leave my apartment and go to campus, I'd want a nice coffee on my way. And it was just up to fate whether I had a good day or not, like if there was parking available. So I figured when I came home, I used to WhatsApp one of my favorite coffee shops and then bring it to my car. And I just thought there has to be a better way of like giving everyone accessibility to all the store's contact numbers, just make the experience a bit more efficient, pay for it, get it timed. So for me, it was a personal frustration, but definitely it was inspired by the whole WhatsApp order, bring it to your car and carry on your journey. Obviously, the more research I did, I was like, cool, I can go in store, pick it up. It's so, like awesome to have loyalty associated with it, but it definitely started with a pain point of parking.
Jeez, that's quite a motivation. And in Cape Town, it costs you like 40 rand to park in Sea Point.
As well, it's not even worth it. You like end up paying for, you pay for like 30 seconds if you even want to park and run out. But besides that, it's just cool to be able to know that someone will bring it to you without you having to call the store. I mean, a coffee is not something you can just call a store for. So it just seemed to be one of those things I was like, I just need this to exist here.
And just staying with that, I think probably what's really been useful and beneficial, not just to you, but to the stores, because they become a lot more agile in their ability to deliver a better quality product, right?
They also become a drive-through, which is something that they wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So mainly targeted the independent stores that couldn't really build their own platform like this, because WhatsApp's really difficult to manage on its own. So I guess I also lent on the pain points of the coffee shop that I was chatting to at the time, who I used to love ordering from. So I think it just lent itself to that. So that's what inspired Coffee Monster. And then I was like, towards the final year that I was living there, that I was like, okay, I have to get a corporate identity and get this thing off the ground.
I must say, and prior to this, I've seen your logo often at Grind, because I get a lot of coffee at Grind, but I actually never knew what it was.
Talking about.
I just thought that I picked up my coffee from Grind, so it was a nice lesson to learn. So Limor, yours is a different story, because as you say, you came out of corporate.
Correct.
But clearly something in you was driving you towards like, what can I do? Was this, part of it could have been driven by your Zionist feeling, or, what more can I do? So I'm sure your story is a little bit different.
It is. And I suppose my company is more service oriented. It's not a product as such. And you spot on, a lot of it was Zionist driven. The truth is, I worked in corporate for many years, and at one stage I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I had this experience working in marketing and business development. And so I started, and I knew that I wanted to work independently. So I started playing around and exploring different industries, and I really got exposed to this whole new world and fascinating world within Israel, and to the whole ecosystem here and different things that were happening. And I just thought, wow, like this is really something that's really interesting. and it combines my passion for Israel and really how can I say take that out of Israel using my skills being an English speaker and having lived abroad and in London and South Africa and bringing all that together. So really it came from a passion and bringing Israel's intellect and startup technologies to the external world.
What's the most exciting thing you've seen that none of us have maybe come across? Just name one.
Wow, I think I can't even tell you exactly what the technology is because, but it was quite an interesting moment where I went to a space conference actually, and I met with these guys who were literally, you know, fresh out the army. They were like 20 years old, 21, and just geniuses. And they started telling me about this technology that they've created to create water and oxygen in space and in Mars and on the moon. And I couldn't even follow half of what they were saying. I was just trying to connect them to different organizations in Florida. And I just looked at these guys and I thought, wow, like, you know, they're so young and they are so smart. And it was just, for me, it was an amazing moment because I really couldn't understand half of what they were saying, but I just knew that it was just something really big and incredible.
Brilliant. I love that. So, you know, one of the things that, and I'm going to take us back to pre-COVID, because I think it's an important discussion to have where your business was before that. And I can tell you that, and I'd share with you a little bit of my story, that pre-COVID, it was very clear that over a period of time, things were going to change so quickly. And if you don't understand what singularity theory is, you should probably look it up. That's singularity with an S. But the point is that the world has been changing so rapidly, and coming from a media background, what was incredibly obvious to a lot of us was that we needed to be able to, and I'll use a very simple expression, keep engine A flying, but invent engine B, because when engine A goes out, it's disaster. And so this is what's happened. A lot of agencies or a lot of companies across a multitude of verticals have not been able to adapt. And I'm not using the word pivot. They haven't been able to adapt, mostly because either their thinking was stuck strategically, or secondly, because they just thought that this would continue for eternity. So the point that I'm making is that clearly you three have been preparing for the future and using a bunch of technology that got you to a particular point. But let's go back to pre-COVID, and let's stay with Limor for a second. But your business at that point must have grown to a space where lots of great things were happening. There was tons of energy. There must have been good synergies that were happening, and then basically Hiroshima. So where was it pre-COVID? How good was it? At what point were you at?
So a year ago, my business was doing very well. I built a strong portfolio of clients, both locally and internationally, including representing the state of Florida here in Israel. And I had numerous delegations, one after the other. Because we were so busy, exactly a year ago, it was, Jewish holidays coming up. And at that time, the work from our side, it had to be very focused and more focused, should I say, planned in advance in order to ensure that everything was scheduled and ready to go. I'll sum it up by saying that I was really happy and we were doing very well on the upside.
On the upside. Craig, you must have been in a similar position.
Yeah, somewhat. I think to put it into perspective, we actually launched our business 3 weeks before lockdown.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, this time last year, we were very positive. The future was looking great. We had a great pipeline of corporate clients that we were tapping into, so whereby we'd fill their staff's vehicles while they're sitting at their desks. They come down to a full tank of petrol. But yeah, you got to, as you say, adapt and just make do. Everyone's going through the same thing. So there's no point on resting on your laurels or kind of thinking about what was, you adapt or die, and you make do with the current situation and circumstances, and you try to take advantage of them, because in every situation there's always an advantage to be had. So you look for those advantages wherever you can.
I think the one word that, and it'll probably resonate with all three of you, is resilience, and the ability to really be knocked down hard and get up and go, all right, what are we going to do? And it's worth mentioning that, you know, as just because you started at that time and that these things came along, that it required a little bit of re-engineering, a little bit of rethinking. But I think resilience, particularly when it comes to entrepreneurs, is probably the quality, and I'm sure you'd all agree, and you can nod your heads in unison if you agree with me, that has actually probably carried you beyond this point. And we'll get to that, because I think it's important to understand the impact of COVID, but we're not going to dwell on that. What we're going to try and get to, and I think this is the important part of tonight, is how that resilience has driven you to the next phase of where you're getting. So Ash, you know, applying your resilience in your business in a time where restaurants were basically shut down, you had to think hard, surely.
Yeah, so it was a difficult time, of course, but I was really grateful that I had a solution that enabled them with a contactless, social distancing, ability, like post-COVID. So when they started opening up, I was like very fortunate that I was helping them. But during that time, I actually just kept all of my stores online, and I started a Back Your Barista initiative where I just put virtual coffees on the platform, and I just encouraged all of my registered users to purchase their daily coffee, even though they were at home, just to keep that ritual going, and just donated all of that to the stores. So I did try get them. I mean, I did try help the restaurants during that time, but for me during that time, it was also it was quite a big time for development on our side. Like, we really had to push to get things going, because we had a service that was positioned well for post-COVID. So everyone's trying to not pay with cash in store, so order ahead, not queue in store, you know, so the timing mechanism would work, or not even leave their cars and have it brought to them. So I think it was just a time of just like, you know, a lot of frustration with development being slower than I wanted it to be, but also a lot of like exciting time in that the convenience element that I was always geared towards almost just shifted to like a contactless solution. So I think that helped a lot. And it was just an interesting turn. But yeah, I mean, my focus still remained the same, to get all the stores to become drive-throughs.
So one of the themes that emerged for me, and I did a lot of reading because I was trying to understand what was happening in the advertising world, there was a fix or flex. So I just want to ask, you know, Craig, maybe you had you were doing something that you thought, well, we can continue doing this and fix it, or we drop it, or we have to really flex our muscle around this business because this is going to be best. So was there anything in particular that you knew you had to do, and things that you absolutely had to drop because it was just too hard to continue?
It's a very tough question. There wasn't anything in particular that we realized we absolutely had to drop. It was more a case of, okay, guys, this is the situation we find ourselves in. We all need to knuckle down and make a plan to make it work. So it was just a case of everyone is working, you know, around the clock, doing what they have to do, just get it done, get it done, get it done. That was kind of our motto for a good 5 months, is how do we, you know, you talk about resilience. It's just, how do we get out of this? How do we stop the hemorrhaging? You know, yes, our corporate clients aren't back in the office, or those staff aren't going back to the office, and they're not going back for the foreseeable future. So come out the box thinking. We've engineered a fantastic product. We've literally engineered a physical mobile fuel delivery truck. I'm sure we can, you know, engineer in our minds a solution to actually get around this. So I think it was, you know, if between those two choices, it was more around the flex. How do we just make things work? We've got a great team around us, all entrepreneurs and out of the box thinkers, and let's just put that mind power to use and make it all work for our benefit, and hopefully come out of this stronger.
All right. We're going to come back to the others on that, and we're going to find out where your businesses are today, because whatever you've done is obviously keeping you going. And I'm curious particularly to hear what in Eretz Israel, because you're going into lockdown again. You've got to manage participants.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, so I think Limore's got a tough time coming. Let's go back to Kayla for a second. She's got a very special guest to introduce.
Alma Links is a global collaborative community that connects young CEOs, founders, financiers, and executives with exceptional business leaders in Israel and Jewish communities around the world. I would like to introduce Martin Schmuckler, who is the chapter chair, Alma Links Johannesburg, to explain more.
Thanks, Kayla. I appreciate it. And good evening to everyone. Thanks to this illustrious panel. Kev, it's great to hear your voice. I made an AK. I remember the radio days. You'll also explain how you spell singularity without the S. I wasn't sure about that chirp over there, but yeah, nice to be with you all. Thank you for having me. As Kayla explained, Alma Links is a global collaborative organization that aims to link Jewish business executives to each other within local chapters, as well as to global business leaders through the international chapters. We got a very strong chapter in Joburg in South Africa. We've been going for about 5 years, so actually since inception. Craigie is one of our members. Limor, I still need to get back to you. I know we did say how's it at a point. Ash must become a member. I'm a big fan of Coffee Monster and ordered from the ground on the weekend. Absolutely love it. So it's great to have. But yeah, essentially we kind of mirror and mimic ourselves on the likes of EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, and YPO. It's kind of having that collaborative community, but this is almost like an exclusively Jewish organization with a very strong link to Israel. The real ethos there is to connect all these disparate communities around the world and bring them, into that economic sphere of Israel. So whereas in the beginning days, we really laid the foundation of the local chapter, and we had events, with all the senior business execs, like the likes of Brian Joffe, Robbie Brosen, Adrian Gore, the list goes on and on. We had about 36 events, Stephen Kossoff, etc. Now our real aim is to connect globally. So that's facilitated by the global chapters, especially the guys in Israel. And we're launching a portal. It's pretty much imminent, but it's like a LinkedIn for Alma Links. So that really connects our members together, and they can open up and engage with each other. You can look at all the different chapters around the world, see members, see their profiles, and reach out accordingly. So really the aim there is just to bolster and connect Jewish communities to each other. I think the big value proposition at the moment is really tapping into global networks. So we've had some amazing events globally over this lockdown period. There's one tomorrow night actually with the CEO of a company called Kind LLC, big listed company in America, a few $1 billion. I think his name's David Lubovsky. So he's giving an event tomorrow night. So it's really nice to reach out and to open up those channels and networks. And I think, the ethos is to just really connect young and upcoming Jewish entrepreneurs. There's no real set age limit, but it's ages between 25 to 40 years old. And, members who show that upcoming ability for future business leadership or current leadership. If anyone wants more information, I think just log on to the website, almalinks.org. That's almalinks.org, and get in touch and reach out. We'd love to have more members and love to have more people on board. So thank you guys very much for having me. Great to be inspired and energized by all you guys. Thank you.
Martin, don't go anywhere. Just spell that Alma Links for everybody, please.
Sure. So it's spelled ALMALINKS, almalinks.org.
Maybe just put it in the chat as well, Martin.
I'll do that. Perfect.
Before you go though, Martin, and it's probably worth sharing my experience with you now, for everybody, not for any other reason that I was in Israel in February, would you believe, right at the beginning of COVID, and I don't know how I didn't get it, but Baruch Hashem, right? So what I did before I left was I actually made contact with Benji Schulman. I called Wendy Kahn at the Jewish board, and I said, look, I'm going to Berlin. I was there for the Laureus World Sports Awards where the Springboks won the team of the year. It was all Gedunta. But I said, once I'm going to Berlin, let's go to Israel. And I want to go and meet everybody in this tech world that I think I can. And it was not only were people so open to see me, but so today we have a proposal out with MTN with one smart star, which you may or may not know, amazing business, where if you dial star MTN, you get all of MTN's things in one go. And when I say we, I mean the proverbial they. They had a business that I met that they can record audio in a studio without microphones and booms. We did a deal actually with a company called Trinity Audio. And what these guys do is they make it possible for websites to be read to you. So if you're in the car and you really want to read an article, instead of reading it, you just hit play and it reads the whole article to you. Fascinating stuff. And there were a number of others. Brandy was a technology for retail marketing. So, and this was in 2 days, and I still managed to get to the hotel and back. The point that I'm trying to make is that it feels like the center of the world when it comes to tech and the excitement behind it. So it wasn't just a case of Kevin, go and meet these people. It was like Boker Tov, Banyanim, Hazrat Habibi. It was just the most wonderful experience. And I'm not trying to sell Israel because that's not my job. But what I got out of it,
Kevin, that's mine.
and I'll leave that to Limor. The point is that I think there's such an openness. I mean, one of the most amazing things, and I'll just share it with you, Limor, what I saw was a business that has got rights to sport that is able to publish the highlights of like the NBA minutes after it happens so you can watch it on your mobile phone, and that's where the world's going. I love that business, but they deal with rights holders and we weren't able to do anything. So Martin, I think anybody who's looking for that kind of experience, and you don't have to travel to Tel Aviv, but connecting with these people, there certainly seems like an amazing opportunity. And for the Zionist Fed to be making it possible for people to do that. In fact, I got a message here from Liron Mazor, is like, give me Ashkenazi's number. So I'll connect the two of you afterwards. But I think that's the point behind all of this. It's a great opportunity for Jewish connection, not just in terms of learning, but also in terms of opportunity. And it's not necessarily about the money, but it is a wonderful thing if that does happen. So basically is what I'm saying.
Absolutely, Kev. Yeah, thanks. It is amazing. I mean, that's one of our biggest features is traveling members. So that's also enhanced by the portal. And wherever you're going, you kind of reach out to the chapter there, and we'll find someone to kind of be your host and take you around wherever you are, especially in Israel.
Yeah. Look, one of the suggestions, and this is completely, and I mentioned it to Benji, it would be amazing to travel and go and meet you in Ashkenazi there in Israel, and take a group of people and go to all these different businesses and create an environment where you have 5 or 10 entrepreneurs, the people you're talking about, YPO, EO, Jewish businessmen who want to go and see what's there and open themselves to this exposure. Granted, under the circumstances, difficult, but I think the more we promote that, the more opportunities you're going to provide for the growth of Jewish businesses there and opportunities around the world. There really is just some amazing stuff.
Yeah, amen. Absolutely. Thanks, Kev. Thanks, guys.
No worries. You'll send me my endorsement check in the post tomorrow. That's fine. You can make it out in shekels, lira, whatever you want to.
Yeah, in these unusual times, though, we don't pay.
No, that's it. You're out. He's out. Let's get back to the stars of the show. So the big question now, and let's start with Ash, because you've been through a really crappy time. Is you've survived this period. Where do you see your business now, and how do you take it forward, knowing what you know and knowing how you have to respond? Because that, and hopefully this is the story where you get to inspire people, Ash. This is where people go, I want to be heard. So
Sure.
This is your moment.
I mean, obviously we're still very much startup phase, and it's like had a lot of learnings. I went live on the App Store last year, April, started marketing in September. So it has been growing. COVID, obviously, as much as the restaurants were closed, it definitely boosted the fact that people wanted to endorse marketing the product, because the minute they signed up, they were like, okay, cool, this is a new social distancing practice that we're taking on. So moving forward, I mean, we're launching new features. We're just trying to activate users because we've had a lot of people download it, sign up. And actually, I just want to fix the technology. And then, yeah, like we've just added gift cards to allow people to, purchase as like a corporate gift or for their friends. So I think so we're just trying different initiatives to activate users now, which I hope will bring more customers to the store, to our different monster spots, as we call them. And then hopefully one day go international. So this is like, I just want to make it work here first. And that's where we're going.
big question is, how do you bring people into and I'll use one of those marketing terms, into the ecosystem. So I'll use my parents-in-law as an example. I mean, if they can shop on Woolworths online, anybody can. And I think what lockdown and COVID have really shown us is that it's the acceleration of people using digital transaction has just gone from like 5% compounded annual growth rate to like 90% compounded annual growth rate. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure for Mr. Dogan over there, he must have the same ambitions, not just for South Africa, but I'm assuming maybe even across Africa. But what's the next chapter?
100%. So we've got our eyes on Africa, but then, further abroad than that, we really aim, our goal is to be a major cog in the fuel industry. We see ourselves as that connector between consumers and petrol stations. So that's what we want to do. We're in the process of building out or increasing our fleet size. So we are in the process of building out our next 10 vehicles. Those are delivery vehicles. We're on version 2 of our app. That's both our driver's app and our user's app. So yeah, basically, our pipeline is strong. We've used the last 6 months to really work on that, on business development, on work on our back end, on our user experience, all of those things. And now our main goal is just eye on the prize, and we're looking to grow exponentially. So hopefully this time next year, we're going to be national. Well, not hopefully, we will be. We're looking at daily growth because that's what we're seeing. So that's the metric that we're going to continue to track and measure ourselves on. So if we're not growing daily, we're going backwards. That's our ethos within the business. And yeah, after national, then we'll give it a bit of time, I think, maybe just kind of get a bigger market share, and then we'll go up north. And yeah, I don't want to get ahead of myself. We'll see from there.
So here's a question that everybody's asking entrepreneurs, because everybody's starting businesses. They've got e-commerce platforms, they've got verticals. Ash is trying to increase what she's doing. Limor needs to speak to more people. What is the one marketing aspect that has worked best for your business in terms of acquisition? And it's an important question, because there's so many platforms out there. And again, I'm referring to some of the AKs here. We've all got businesses and kids. And I'm referring also to all of us, because we're all looking at this multitude of platforms that are available to us. But what is it that's worked for your business in particular that's just driven acquisition?
Yeah, for us, it's without a doubt word of mouth. We've got a product that people love. Convenience is such a buzzword these days. Everyone is, as you say, whether it's online shopping or ordering their food, or, in Ash's case, their coffee, whatever the case may be. And people love that. And that's what we're offering. So we pride ourselves on our service, and we ensure that we give everyone an absolutely, really special feeling, that they feel like they are our one and only customer for the day. And as a result of that, it's word of mouth generally.
It's an important point. I want to stop you there, because most people watching tonight and people not watching tonight will going, we have to do digital. We must buy digital. Where's our SEO? Where's our Facebook spend? And the truth is that the word of mouth economy continues to be, the recommendation economy, as I call it, continues to be the most powerful way of spreading the word.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can spend, I don't know, take an arbitrary number. You can spend 1,000 Rand on Facebook. You'll get 1,700 impressions. Of that, through your funnel, maybe you'll get 0.5%, which will actually close out as a user. Yeah. And that would probably be a good metric. Or you can give someone a great experience and they tell 10 of their friends. Of those 10 friends, you'll probably get 5 people using it. So we devote ourselves to just ensuring that user experience is top notch, that our drivers are not just drivers, they're ambassadors for the brand. So at every single touch point, when you're engaging with Refuel, you're just having the best experience you could possibly have. And generally speaking, people, the feedback is that they're not going back to a petrol station. And that's what we love to hear.
I see Ash and Lim were both nodding away there, because this whole I think the only people that get satisfied by Facebook is Mark Zuckerberg, but that's an opinion, and please don't quote me on that in the newspaper tomorrow, because I'll probably get shot by somebody, or the Zuckerberg mafia. But the view has become that if we're not on digital, we're not relevant. I mean, it just can't be the case. It's more a case of still human connection. It's about, as Craig says, making things possible for people. And even when it comes to Ash's business, it's about connecting with those stores who are in need of doing better business. So where do you sit in that?
So, look, this year was meant to be my strongest year because I had many delegations booked from around the world. And, COVID hit and the skies closed. And it had a major impact on the business, the business took a knock. But having said that, and you're talking about a digital transition, it's created a lot of opportunities as well. It's true that personal interaction will always be important, and those face-to-face meetings are important. But having said that, I've attended so many online events that I wouldn't have attended otherwise, and even speaking here today, it's probably a result of the current situation. So, there've been there are many B2B platforms that are available now on all these online events that I've been attending. And I've gotten so many requests, interest from different organizations that I would probably not have been exposed to in the past. So, while my organization is very people-oriented, and it was very on the ground focused with having many delegations coming here, actually this situation has proven to be very interesting in terms of opening different doors. And also it's made me think about the future of my business, because in Israel we also have an economics, a political situation, both internal and external, that can be CHALLENGING. Didn't want to say the word in case I get muted. So I really also have to think about that, because it's possible that the skies will close again. And so, this digital transition that the world has gone through, whether it's with remote working, the home economy and all of that, it's affected events as well. And there are a lot of opportunities here that I'm already seeing too. And, I see it in a really positive way.
So just I'm being shouted at by all the people in charge of this thing. Tell people to ask questions. Why aren't you asking them to ask questions? You're not the only question asking. Right. So if anybody wants to ask questions, you can go to the chat. You can WhatsApp, send smoke signals. I don't know. Do whatever it is that you want to do. But I see. Let's see who's here. Amit Ashkenazi, your brother, I'm assuming.
Hello, Amit.
Amit, nice to see you. There's Cassie Ozens there, Cynthia Mareski, lots of Jews. Eddie Oblowitz, look at Eddie. I mean, look at that picture. He just looks like $1 million with his red cheeks. We've got another Nestat, Weinstein. There's a whole bunch of people. If you guys want to ask questions, please go ahead. This is not an opportunity for me to just ask questions. What's so funny, Ash? Do you know the other Nestat?
Yes, it's my mom.
Mom, obviously, I'm climbing such nachas from my daughter. She's the best. I mean, listen to tomorrow's phone calls. I can hear them all. She was amazing, my daughter. She's, I can't believe, a monster. And then she spoke about this, and then, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get back to business. So I think I actually wanted to prepare you with these questions, because everybody thinks entrepreneurs, they always talk about overnight successes. And I like to use David Frankel. I'll come back to A. Shapiro's question in a second. I like to use him as an example. He's an amazing guy. He's had an amazing entrepreneurial career. But everybody always talks about his Uber investment, right? In general. Oh, my goodness, David Frankel invested in Uber. What you don't hear are the 20 other investments that didn't come good. Right. So people always like the success story, and you've heard it all 100 times before. It was an overnight success. And you guys know the pain, the difficulty, those down moments, those up moments. And what I really wanted to try and get across to people tonight was, what were those scary moments and what were those high moments? And you don't have to spend long, and I was told not to ask this to one of you, but just share with me, and you can do it in a sentence, and we'll go quick fire. So we'll go Dogan, Ashkenazi, and Nestat, but lowest point, highest point. Dogan, you're up.
Yeah, so the last 6 months has definitely been up there, but I think with that comes the highlights, because you overcome those challenges, and that's, you know, the lower you go, the even more it's just as rewarding.
What was the lowest? The lowest point.
The lowest in my career has to be when I sold my first business. There was a lot of emotional attachment to that. It was, you know, I started it when I was young, 18, and it was just a kind of case of post-purchase dissidence, or whatever the equivalent is for the seller. Just not knowing if it was the right move, whether I did it too early, right price, all of those kind of questions you ask yourself. So I got over it, but that was probably the lowest point.
All right, let's go across to Israel. Ashkenazi, you're up.
I think my lowest point and my worst moment was when I first started working for myself. You know, at that point, Israel Connect hadn't been born yet, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. You know, I had a strong marketing and business development background, but I hadn't found my passion, and I was searching for it. For me, it's really important to wake up in the morning and to love what I do. You know, I'm an ambitious person, and I put a lot of pressure on myself to succeed. You know, the first few months, I worked crazy hours. You know, I was exploring different options, different businesses. It was tough, and you know, I was really my biggest critic. But eventually, and through being open to different opportunities, I found myself in this fascinating world, you know, of international business relationships, and everything just clicked. And I really do love what I do. So I think that from those moments of hardship, if you do persevere through them, in the end, it makes it all worth it.
All right, Nestat, you get the last word.
Cool. So for me, it was learning that I think it was just a development process. I learned a lot about patience through it, but also I just want things to happen straight away. And I didn't actually realize how much goes into like developing a new feature, or, you know, just fixing the app in general, or finding a bug. I think my lowest, and it's continuous, it's like a cycle. I always hit these lows because I'm like, I wish I could just develop myself and spend the whole night doing it, but I can't. And obviously we're a startup, so we don't have a team of like 10 in-house devs. So I think my lowest moment is always development issues, just because I want the product to be better, and I want to like adapt to what my customers want immediately, and like what my stores want as well. So I think for me, it's just like that like moment of, I can't actually have this right now when I want it. So I think that keeps happening, and like I keep riding that wave. And then obviously my highest is when I hear people using it that I don't know have used it. So it's always fun when I like chat to people about it, and they're like, oh, I've heard about that, I can't believe it's yours. Or just like a story here and there, you know, if you like just bump someone random in the airport. It's just like, those are the highs, when it just seems like people want it. And you've built something with like some purpose. So those are my highs and lows.
Nice. It's you know, you sound like my 3-year-old who wants all the Lego. We had to hide him from the Lego store the other day. I wanted it now. And as I keep saying to my wife, you can't negotiate with terrorists. So forget that. Oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to say the T word. SAZF. All right, let's go back to Canada, because we've got to get in touch with Jonathan.
The South African Israel Chamber of Commerce is a non-government, apolitical, industry-led and community-powered organization driven to promote business between South Africa and Israel. I would like to introduce Jonathan Shapiro, one of the board members, to tell us a bit more about this amazing organization.
Thanks, Kayla. So basically, the SAICC is a deal and facilitation organization that links companies and businesses in Israel and South Africa and vice versa. So what we've been doing in the last couple of months is breathing new life into the chamber. We've got a new team of guys, and we're currently busy working on quite a few opportunities with Israeli companies coming to South Africa and South African companies going to Israel. So especially what everyone's touched on here about technology and some of the issues that South Africa is facing, we think Israel does, they do have quite a lot of the solutions for quite a lot of the problems in South Africa. And we also want to build that relationship back with Israel that we used to have all those years ago. So we really do encourage people to visit our new website. It's saicc.co.za and start engaging with us. You don't have to be Jewish. It is a South African organization, a Chamber of Commerce. And yeah, to see what opportunities lie in Israel, and if there are any people in Israel watching, what opportunities might lie in South Africa. So yeah, thanks so much for this opportunity just to promote and talk a bit about it. And we look forward to engaging with new people.
I think for both the institutions that have spoken tonight, I think the relevance, and again about, you know, going back to Gidon, is that the word of mouth here is most critical. Not just to make Ashkenazi's job easier or to take Ash Nestat's business over there, but the recommendation economy. So here's the example I want to use for you all. When was the last time, and you could nod or you can shake it, when was the last time you watched something on Netflix that somebody didn't recommend to you? Ever? See? So the truth is, what happens is someone goes, oh my God,
I watch many.
You've got to watch this show, all right? But you're probably an early adopter, right? But somebody, like, I'll find up a friend, I'll be like, but I don't know what to watch on Netflix, or must watch it, and I say this, this, and this. And I like to call that the recommendation economy, because you trust the opinion of that person. What they're recommending makes sense to you. Now, it may not appeal to you in the end, but I think the point of what everybody's saying around here tonight is not just about saying that let's connect with Israel and let's connect businesses. It's all easy to say. Everybody leaves this webinar and goes back to their day job, right? The point is that when you leave here is to go, you know, I heard this really interesting conversation. There's a great opportunity to connect. And Ash Nestat and Dogan, you should be saying, well, hold on a second, how do I export this intellectual capital into Israel? And how do I strengthen the GDP of Israel with South Africa? And again, I don't want to sound like I'm preaching it out there, but I think the point behind it is just that. Talking about it and running an advert in my world is just a 30-second promo that says, hey, we're available. I think when you really want to connect with people and people open themselves up to it, that opportunity becomes real. So that's my drosha, and let's move on to some questions from some of our guests. Sorry, did you want to say anything else, chaps?
Kev?
Yeah.
Sorry, just one point. We are currently working with an incredible company in Israel at the moment, Synovia. They're a tech business that have developed this really cool mask. So that is one of the first new deals that we're working on. We do have some stock in the country, and we actually got them made by a Jewish organization. So we imported the raw material and we provided jobs to another local Jewish organization to participate in bringing Israeli tech to South Africa. And we're in the process now of distributing these to some key people and key decision makers to hopefully get the distribution for South Africa through the chamber and the Zionist Fed.
Awesome, great news. Those are the kind of stories we need, and that's the whole point for me of tonight. I'm not moaning and groaning about the NN. See, I didn't use it either. Okay? I just used the inverted commas. Craig, question for you. So somebody's asking about. You've tapped into this important part of the current situation. Your solution helps many, but the flip side of the coin is that a lot of petrol attendants will lose out, and they'll lose out on tips. Before you answer though, what is clearly happening, and everybody talks about the coming of the 4IR. When the Industrial Revolution first happened, people didn't sit back and go, oh shit, there's machines coming. They saw machines and they used them. And so if you look at Walmart America, there's no more checkout people at the tills. You have a checkout counter. You put your stuff in the thing, it weighs your bag, and you get the hell out. Now, I know that impacts human jobs, and particularly in South Africa, that is a problem. But that is the reality. And Craig, I'm sure you'll agree with me on that.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't discount that reality, but at the same time, we understand that, especially in South Africa, we have to be conscious of the dynamics and the fact that the fuel industry employs a significant number of people in petrol attendants, and that those people, people rely on those people, et cetera, et cetera. It's a knock-on effect. So our goal isn't to put those individuals out of work. Our goal is actually to upskill those individuals. So Refuel's pipeline, we need drivers to man every single one of our vehicles. So we find our drivers from the petrol attendant base. We take petrol attendants, we upskill them, we give them the training that they need. So all of our drivers are trained in firefighting, first aid, spill response, emergency recovery, all of those things that we need in order to ensure that our service offering is safe. We upskill those drivers to do so. So in actual fact, and then sorry, they also get their driver's license that they need. So we're upskilling those individuals. We're not taking away jobs. We're actually trying to, uplift the community. And then from a demand perspective, we aren't taking away demand. We are purely connecting consumers with the petrol station. So it's just a case of we are the app provider, the facilitator, and then the delivery company. And, so those guys still need to be there to fill up our vehicles in order for our vehicles to go and fill up in consumers' vehicles. So yeah, I believe that we are making a positive impact on those individuals' lives.
I mean, it's a very noble way of approaching it, and in the grand scheme of things, it is our responsibility to be good corporate citizens, not because the BE laws say it. So I must compliment you on that. Ash, the one question that came for you was, are there any more strings in your bow? And if you do have them, what are they? You're still muted.
Sorry. I knew that was going to happen to me at one point tonight. Not sure. I'm just keen to keep exploring. I feel like every time we launch a new feature or put the product in the market, we learn something new. So for me, I just want to keep adapting to what we learn. And at the moment, it is just launching all the features that I have on my to-do list and then going ahead from there, seeing if they work, if they don't, and then trying again.
So I want to come back to the similar question that I asked to Craig earlier about the marketing that's worked best for you. Has it been the stores themselves or the people who've had good experiences, coupled with social media and some really clever thinking about how you strategically place your media? Which has been the most successful for you?
It's been interesting. So I did a full social media campaign, which definitely helped with brand awareness. But I found that the main, the best thing that I've done for myself is just in-store marketing. But it took time for me to get to the point where stores endorsed it enough to be like, okay, we're going to put Coffee Monster on our counters and outside the store. And, it had to be reliable enough for them to want that. So it took some time. I think started with social, have moved definitely back to basics where it's physical marketing collateral that we focused on. So we have quite a few fun things. We have stickers underneath coffee cups, so you can take a selfie and it's like a monster mouth. So we do cool marketing that's just subtle in store. So we've moved completely away from social media marketing. We still have a presence and I keep that page quite active, but generally it's more physical in-store collateral and promotions that we're moving towards. So we're not there yet, but we're getting to that point where we've played around enough with it to know that people want that 10 Rand coffee special on a Friday. So we're definitely moving towards adding promo codes and making it more exciting for the user, just that smart analytics with push notifications and email marketing. But that all comes with time. We had to build an audience. So I think it just goes in sequence. It was very important to start with the whole Facebook, Instagram campaign to build our audience, but I'm quite comfortable with the size of it now to start marketing in app and leaning on what we have with our database.
Okay, so a different recipe. I think what we're seeing from both of those businesses is that you're able to generate revenue, interest, and a conversation around the brands in completely different ways. And it's a good lesson for everybody. There's not a one solution fits all. The marketing speak that all the marketers will come to you with and all the strategists is omni-channel. You have to be omni-channel, which means you just have to be everywhere, ubiquitous, nebulous, whatever word you want to use. The point is that it really is a case of horses for courses. And that's probably a good lesson that I'm sure that, and I can see Craig going, well, my horse was this, and word of mouth has been great. And for Ash, it's been in-app. The difference, I guess, between your two businesses and Limor is that her measure of success isn't just revenue and profits and more products, but it's getting to the point where the deal is closed and something happens. So it must be a much more difficult metric for you to manage your success. Am I right?
Correct. It really depends because there's different business models, of course, and, delegation can just be that. But of course, for me, and, it happens a lot here in Israel because there are so many delegations. A lot of time they come here, everyone has all these nice things to say to each other. And at the end, everyone goes home and nothing really happens. And so that is really something that I try really focus on and adding that value and making things happen. And, when people get back to their jobs and the daily grind, really making sure that these connections continue. And, that is on top of the financial reward, let's just say, it's also very rewarding when these things happen. And actually do happen.
So again, different measurements of success, different measurements of how to measure your success. But I think these are great success stories, and probably if I speak on behalf of everybody who's watching, just to say to you, well done for getting through. There's probably a few questions around your pricing models. I'm sure everybody could go to your website. Okay, now you can punch your business. So what's it, refuel.co.za?
Refuel.co.za, or on Facebook or on Instagram, all the omni channels.
Omni-channel, they're everywhere. Right. Ash Nestad, how do people find your app on the Google and Apple Store?
Yeah, definitely starting point is the App Store. So yeah, Apple and Android. And then, yeah, we've got a website, coffeemonster.co.za. And my Instagram page is pretty active, and Facebook kind of shared. So coffeemonster_app
And that little
is our
coffee monster.
Yeah, this cute little logo. Everywhere. There's monsters everywhere.
Only more probably for you, it's a little bit more difficult. Maybe your email address or your phone number or your telex, or do you have a fax there in Israel in these days? I don't know.
Well, no, we definitely don't. Maybe the banks do, but they're working on that. Website is israel-connect.com. Feel free to look me up on LinkedIn, pop me a line. I'd be happy to hear from you. And I'll send you all my details, Kayla as well. If anyone wants them, you can get them there. My phone number is 050-750-9959 with the Israeli prefix. But again, just feel free to speak to Kayla or whoever's managing this, and they can connect you with me.
Okay,
directly.
cool. So just before we go, there were a few more questions, but I do think we need to wrap up. So I'm going to ask Kayla to keep those questions and send them to you directly. And I'll let her wrap up the evening. But just to say to you that I think this is the kind of things these are the kind of conversations we should be having around the Rosh Hashanah table, the Shabbos table. And they're not just your stories, they're other people's stories. I think we need to hear this. We need to hear that, that out of this, excuse my language again, the shitstorm, that actually there are people who are motivated and are able to find their way through it. And the Sin will pass, and everybody says the sin will pass, but I do want to, on behalf of everybody who's participated tonight, kind of pat you on the back, which you don't need. But it's wonderful to hear these stories, and thank you for sharing them. And I think, obviously, just from me, it's been lovely chatting with you. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And again, to the Zionist Fed for asking me to be with you tonight. So thank you, and I'll hand back to Kayla.
Thanks so much, Kevin. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. And all the questions, they were great.
Kayla, this is your chance to say good night. What must I do? That's it. I've wrapped up. I gave you my link.
I'm waiting for Dave. Dave's going to tell us what are the upcoming events of the Zionist Fed.
What's the upcoming event? Sorry, I've got a script here of events that. Sorry, so David. It's not in the running order. All right.
I've got to be honest. I missed my cue. I do apologize. I missed my cue. It was supposed to be earlier, but I will take this opportunity to tell you about the next event is tomorrow night. Rabbi David Rosen is going to be talking about the Gulf, Israel, and interreligious diplomacy. So that sounds like a very interesting and juicy subject. That's tomorrow night at 7:30, and we hope to see you then.
And that brings us to a close now. Shana Tova, Umetika to everyone and their families, and thank you to Kevin, the ringmaster, for
That was fun. Thank
tonight,
you.
and to Craig and Limor and Ashley for sharing your inspiring business journeys with us, and to Dave, Lisa, Yvette, Terry, and Benji for working on this with me.
Thanks so much, Kayla.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kay.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone.